Chapter 11 Wedding Feast. More. The arrival of King Arthur brought the marriage ceremony between King Lot and Morgan closer. A few days later, Lot and Morgan's ceremony was held in his castle. The wedding ceremony in this era is much simpler than in previous lives. Britain has not completely become a believer in God. The main purpose of the wedding ceremony is to let all the nobles witness the marriage of these two men. Flowers dotted the entire castle, and the maids cleaned up all the corridors and rooms. In the eyes of everyone's expectation, Lot and Morgan appeared in front of them. Lot wore a white dress with a beautifully embellished long sword slung across his waist. His tall figure and handsome face were even more attractive than the heirs of the gods in the legend. By his side, Morgan was holding hands in hand. He was wearing a white wedding dress and white tassels on his head. On that beautiful face, there was always a slight smile. Lot and Morgan are both very noble, and the appearance of these two people are standard handsome men and beautiful women, so their marriage has received a series of blessings. It's a perfect match. This is the idea of all nobles. Then, after a series of rituals, the two people are officially married this time. During this process, Morgan kept listening to Lot's various complaints. I am married. I actually got married with Morgan. Well, isn't it just getting married? What's all the fuss about? Well, there is nothing nervous about it. Morgan is not nervous. Okay, not nervous. I am not nervous. I'm not at all nervous about Morgan. Next, I will give birth to a few children with her. They are called Gul, Zywin, Jarus and Gareth. Hey, how many are these? There are already 4. We just got married today. Why do you think of giving birth to so many? Are you not going to let me rest? Also, why are there so many boys' names? What if they're all girls? It was okay at first, but afterwards, Lot's heart turned into that kind of mess. By the way, the wedding dress is really good. Would you like to keep Morgan from taking it off later in the evening? The uniform is really too unbearable. Well, Morgan's legs are long, white and thin, great. Blushing face. I really have thoughts that make people feel excited. Basie, Yides, and Ataka living in the 21st century saw more pictures of a day than the hundreds of years before the 20th century. So it's okay for Lot's reverie in his heart to be ashamed or embarrassed. I guess. Morgan listened, and the noodles turned red. You sucker. So horny. Nasty. Too obscene. I really want to bite you. Everyone didn't know these things. They just thought Morgan was shy. But no wonder. After all, Lot is so handsome. Understandable. Understandable. So amid the goodwill laughter of everyone, the wedding ceremony ended smoothly. After it was over, King Arthur and Lot said, and tomorrow, after discussing something with Morgan, they will also take Merlin to bid farewell. Now there are 2 people, Morgan and Lot. Well, let's go to rest, too. Lot said to Morgan. Damn, I'm so nervous. It's really exciting and nervous. Also, what should Morgan do if it hurts later? Morgan glanced at Lot. Not only is he nervous, I am also nervous to die. This is also my first time. How does it feel? But this time cannot be cancelled. Well, I have to overwhelm him with momentum. Come on, rest. Morgan tried to restrain his expression and said. Then, the 2 people walked to the bedroom. Although the 2 parties don't know each other yet, they have reached the point of getting married. Then get married first, then fall in love. Lot put his arms around Morgan's waist, bringing both sides close. After walking a few steps, Morgan spoke to Lot. From now on, I will manage Orkney with you. Okay, it's okay to leave it to you. For this, Lot certainly agreed. I don't really like specific government affairs at first, and it would be great if someone came to do it for me. Also, Lot thought that the reason why Morgan kept thinking about finding King Arthur later on was probably because he was too idle. It would be great to find more things for her this time so that she doesn't have time to do things. Lot thought this, then looked at Morgan. But tonight, the most important thing is the first time between the 2 parties. Finally, it's time to get the cabbage. Morgan didn't hear the previous thoughts, but the last sentence was very emotional, allowing her to hear it thoroughly. It's going to be overwhelmed by the dog. Hey, etc. What is cabbage? I didn't hurt Morgan last night. Did I? For the first time, I don't have any experience. Is it a bit too dismissive of Morgan's feelings? Morgan was awakened by this heartfelt voice. Nonsense. Try it for you. You guy, what did you eat for a long time? Well, but after all, you are a bit conscientious. And you know that taking into account my feelings, you are not the kind of scumbag who doesn't care about his wife at all. Morgan heard Lot's heartfelt voice, and then vigorously complained to him in his heart. But there is something strange about her. Why is Lot still a virgin before, but his movements are so skillful? How did his experience come from? If he hadn't heard his heartbeat, Morgan would have thought Lot was a nobleman who always shotted the maid. But if it's not, could it be that there are also talents of Tanzong who can understand by themselves in this respect? Very strange. She opened her eyes slightly and watched Lot looking at her closely. Good morning, she said to Lot with sleepy eyes. Well, good morning. Lot squeezed Morgan's small nose lightly. Although the night passed, the feeling between the 2 parties became more intimate. Slightly breaking free from his arms, Morgan said to Lot quickly, let's get up. Didn't my father tell me? He wants to tell us something. She still wants to do some business. Yesterday my father called for the 2 of them, and it seems that there are still some important things. Of course, Morgan was also afraid that he would do it again. I can't stand this anymore. She even took the initiative to eavesdrop on Lot's heart. Looking at him, she didn't mean it for the time being. After the two got dressed, Morgan also used magic to heal himself. Then, the two went to find King Arthur together. Chapter 12. Morgan. These are all Lot you told me. Second more. Oh, it's really a bit unexpected to come here so early. Standing at the door of King Arthur, Lot and Morgan saw that they were on the other side of the corridor. Merlin was walking over, saw Lot and Morgan, and said with a smile, the word joking expressions in his eyes, "No one will get up early on the second day of marriage. Generally, you can't get up if you don't toss up to 3 poles in the day. If it weren't for someone to meet, I guess I could lie in bed until I was really hungry at night before I would get up." And now Lot and Morgan came to visit King Yaozef in this morning, which is really surprising. Seeing his molesting expression, Morgan felt very embarrassed. Sure enough, what the father said was not wrong. This Merlin is indeed a real bastard. Morgan subconsciously looked at Lot. Want to see how he reacted. What if he gets ridiculed like this? If he talks nonsense, I will find a way to round him up. I have to say, that is the best way to increase the relationship. Morgan compared Lot and Merlin, so of course he would choose Lot without even considering it. King Yaosa has something to do with me, so after the marriage is over, he came to pay him a visit immediately. Master Milan, does your Majesty King Yaosa have time now? Lot's face did not change, and he continued to say calmly. Morgan looked at his calm expression with some curiosity in his heart. Merlin's emotions are completely absent. If I hadn't already understood it in my heart, then I wouldn't know it. I have to say that what he pretended to be true. If you are looking for the best actor in this era, it must be Merlin in front of you. I don't have any feeling at all, but I can imitate the expression I should show. I have to say how superb this guy has a grasp of the human heart. Okay? What is Lot talking about? Are these all in disguise? Is Merlin not emotional at all? Morgan was still a little surprised when he heard Lot say this. If Merlin in front of him was really emotional, then he would be far more terrifying than others in some respects. Morgan's tragedy is inseparable from Merlin in front of him to some extent. But the most important one who supports King Arthur's supremacy. King Arthur comes to power. Who is King Arthur? Is she my sister? Morgan frowned slightly, thinking in his heart. I will pay attention to it in the future. If I really meet Arthur, I must see what power she has to replace me as the master of Camelot. In this era of Britain, it's up to me to decide whether it's Merlin in front of me or my sister who doesn't know where she will eventually become my subject. I don't know how to find out where my sister is with Lot. The slutty dog next. What do you like? He likes some strange tunes. Is it possible that I have to agree to his actions? Hey, what a shame. Morgan thought of the actions Lot had thought of when he was excited last night, and his shyness was immediately shown on his face. Then she shook her head abruptly, putting these thoughts aside. Of course. Merlin nodded gently. Looking at Morgan's expression, he didn't understand why Morgan would make a violent head shake. But this does not affect him. He has long been waiting for your arrival, Your Majesty King Lot. Then I will go to see Your Majesty King Arthur now, Lot hurriedly said to Merlin. Good. With an inviting gesture, Merlin took Morgan and Lot into the dormitory where Arthur lived. King Arthur had been waiting for Morgan and Lot in the bedroom. He watched the two handsome men and beautiful women come in, and he couldn't help looking at Morgan. It made him happy again, and sighed again. What is happy is that my daughter is married to a very good person. Handsome, noble, and the most important thing is to see how he gets along with his daughter. That character should also be very good. And if Morgan, as his daughter, is happy, of course he will be very happy. Although I am for political marriage, I don't want my daughter to be unhappy. Now it seems that this is something that satisfies everyone. That's good. This made King Yaosa, who knew his physical condition, felt that even if he passed in the future, someone could take care of Morgan for himself. And sighing, it's that King Arthur is not clear about his next choice. Who on earth should be the king of Camelot? The extraordinary power in his body should have disappeared in his own generation. But neither Morgan nor Altria inherited this kind of power, so the more important thing for them is to lead the army and govern the country. It was absolutely good that Altria was brought up by Sir Ector and taught by Merlin. On the other side, Morgan's suggestions are also very effective, and Lot is not bad either. Choose one of these two. It's a bit difficult. Therefore, King Arthur couldn't help sighing. It's a good thing for your own children to be good, but if they're all good, it's also a headache. It is a pity that this country is not a family property, nor can it be divided equally. Fortunately, his body can still support some days, and with Morgan, he can do things that he didn't dare to think about before. Just in the process, I came to test Morgan and Altria, who is more suitable to be the king between the two. Thinking of this in his mind, he opened his mouth and asked Morgan, Morgan, I'm seeing you now. You can tell me now. You asked Merlin and I to talk about rewarding farming methods. It's through an official position. This method is indeed good to inspire the enthusiasm of farmers. Come. Do you think there is anything else to add? Hearing what he said, Morgan hadn't reacted yet, but Lot's eyes on the other side were wide. Wait, what's the situation? How did Morgan know to do this? Who told her this? Thinking. Lot looked at Morgan involuntarily. Morgan looked at Lot, who was surprised, and smiled triumphantly. Without listening to his heart, Morgan knew what he was thinking. She blinked and responded to Lot with her eyes. Lot, these methods are all you told me. Chapter 13. Are you here to attend your sister's wedding? 4K. Although this was the first eye contact, Lot still saw clearly what Morgan wanted to express. What idea did I give you? When will I give you the idea? I'll do this when I'm fine. Even if it only appoints official positions, it will touch a large part of the cake of the nobles. If it is not reformed, then the appointment of officials in the territory is also an important content for the nobles to arrange for the second son to have an illegitimate child or to sell it out. If these were given to the peasants, of course the nobles would have complaints in their hearts. And these, even if all the nobles are not going to offend the king, but it is certain for the person who proposed it. Think about Shang Yang's fate. Who is Shang Yang? Is he behaving like us? Also, what is his final ending? This name does not sound like a British name, nor a Roman name, so how did he get it? Morgan listened to Lot's thoughts, and was a little curious about his last sentence, but she really understood what Lot's words meant. He was worried that it would be unpleasant to do so, and might even cause some danger to himself. Hey, thank you for your worry, but we are destined to become the Lord of Camelot. Even if these nobles have opinions, I will also suppress them. Your ideas are very good, and I will promote them all. Looking at his father, Morgan continued to speak. Well, it is true that pure government incentives will not work completely. In addition, we have to set up special officials to manage agriculture. In addition, we encourage farming and give farmers some low prices, interest or interest-free loans, so that they have the funds to buy production materials. She looked at King Arthur and spoke to him. These words were heard in the ears of King Arthur, although they felt very reasonable. But it's a bit deviant. All this reminded him of what Merlin and him had said before. The existence of Morgan might bring Britain to a place. Maybe it's good, maybe it's bad. But how did these Morgans come up with it? She had never seen these things when she was by my side before. Well, forget it. As long as it's good for Britain, just support it. These Morgans could not hear. All she could hear was Lot's shocked expression on the side. What's this? I went. Although she had already seen the farmers before, I didn't talk to her about the specific matters. How did she know these and use them? Wife Morgan, it's too amazing. Is she the roundworm in my stomach? How do you know everything? Well, anyway, what happened before is enough to offend the nobles, and to provide loans is to offend a little bit more. Anyway, we are in Orkney. Camelot's nobles can never come here. See Goosey, who is the roundworm in your stomach? I'm your wife. Also, those nobles will not come here. But it does not mean that we will not pass. Well, okay, I've remembered all of these. King Arthur said to Morgan. Next, if we might have to go to war with the humble King Vortigern, then we will trouble King Lot and Morgan to come assist us in our defense. This is the purpose of King Arthur looking for Lot and Morgan. He wanted to look at Morgan's qualifications. Through these, the final decision is who inherited Camelot's throne. Of course we will fully support this. Although Lot was surprised by Morgan's thoughts just now, he also reacted at this moment, and also responded to King Arthur's words. Although the kingdom of Orkney is an independent kingdom, it is also a small country relying on Camelot. In other words, the relationship between Morgan and him is not counted. This King Arthur is also his boss, and he is fighting against Vortigern based on his own interests. So, boss, don't worry, son-in-law, I will definitely help you. Morgan had no idea what to say. What kind of seniority is this in the end? Forget it, let them be happy. At that time, he and Lot led the troops to defeat Fu Taiging is the most important thing. If at that time he defeated Fu Taiging, then relying on this power, even the traditional nobles who opposed becoming a king would have no way to oppose him anymore. Therefore, whether it is for the people of Camelot and Orkney, for his father or for himself and Lot, he must fight this battle. After getting a good answer, King Arthur looked at Lot and Morgan and said with a smile, then, I won't bother you. When you are newly married, the most annoying thing is that others are bothering you. After Lot and Morgan listened, their faces were a little unnatural. However, during the production of King Arthur, Lot suddenly had no expectations for King Yaosa's morals, and beside him, Morgan couldn't help but glanced at him curiously. What is the production process of King Arthur? Only by knowing the production process of my sister can I find where she is. You guy, don't say a word to me. It's tangled to death. Broken dog or something. That is the most annoying. Morgan couldn't wait to pinch Lot's neck, and then went to ask him what the next thing was. But it can't show it. She could only follow Lot out with some depression in her heart. Moreover, he had to put on a very happy expression. Well, Morgan was held by Lot and walked out. At this time, Morgan still wanted to explore Lot's thoughts again, but she felt tired, proving that the number of times today is almost used. The rest is not easy to probe. You can only see Lot's own divergence. When he came outside, Lot said to Morgan, well, the visit with father-in-law is over. Let's go back to the bedroom. Morgan's eyes widened in surprise when he heard Lot's words. Sex? What are you talking about? You won't want more, will you? This, although very comfortable, is deadly. I'm just an ordinary magician, not a knight, and my physical fitness is not very good. No need. Morgan whispered to Lot. Huh? No, don't you need to rest? I also said that you didn't go to bed last night and need a good rest. But if you don't need it, then I'll give the castle's account books and so on. Let you know the housekeeper and the maids, you will manage them well in the future. Lot heard Morgan say this, his face was a little curious, and then he said to her, it turns out that I think it's bad. Morgan made a big blush. I still need to sleep for a while, she said to Lot. Oh well. Lot nodded very warmly. It's just that when Morgan thought that this was going to pass, Lot asked her curiously, by the way, the rest I just said. Do you want to be crooked? Morgan had an urge to strangle her husband. I think you are still very energetic. Then you go to the castle. I will rest alone. She spoke to Lot. Throwing Lot here, she ran to her room first. Lot hurried to catch up, and then put his arms around Morgan. Hey, what are you doing? Of course I coaxed my wife to sleep, Lot said without any psychological burden. But in the end, Morgan went to rest alone. She still asked Lot to prioritize government affairs first. After watching Morgan fall asleep, Lot is ready to deal with Orkney's government affairs. Of course, before that, he ordered the kitchen to prepare food for Morgan, and when she woke up, he would bring it to her. As a good man, Lot is still very ethical. For his wife, it must be very petting. Asked to pass the official documents to him, Lot was ready to handle official business. At this moment, he felt that his own plug-in was starting to activate again. The angler never has the Air Force. Now you can go fishing for fish again. Moreover, Lot also felt that his own plug-in seemed to have been upgraded a lot this time, which should be very different from before. What is it? Lot went to see it in person. Finding a place with no one, Lot once again entered the position of the long river. Opening his eyes, it was still the long river of time exuding strange brilliance. But compared to what he saw last time, Lot could clearly feel that the long river had become deeper, and the depth of the water seemed to have become deeper. The river deepened. Does this mean that the fish inside is bigger? And when you get off the pole, you can catch a bigger fish? Lot thought in his heart. Of course, these are not fish, but more powerful things you can get. Lot picked up the fishing rod, and then ran over the long river. In the process of walking, he gained some enlightenment. What's here? This is the moon world. Then in the long river of time, there shouldn't be only some ordinary items without any magic power that I have fished out before, but a series of existences including this type of moon magic. If this is to catch some powerful things by yourself, then it can be said to be very helpful to increase your combat effectiveness. Lot knew that he was a good knight, but it was unrealistic to say how much power he had. The most capable ability of my own body is to have children. As for other skills, that is, a handsome face is left. Now, if I could catch something that would help my practice in this long river of time, that would be great. Moreover, because this is a type moon world, my previous thoughts on material science were completely wrong. I previously thought that in this era, I could only use some wood with higher toughness to make fishing rods, and the endurance of this kind of fishing rods is really limited, so the items I can catch are also very limited. But if it is the moon world, then you can find a stronger and more resilient fishing rod. This kind of fishing rod can help you catch more things. Well, at that time, he might also be able to catch a pile of treasures, and when the piles add up, it may not be much worse than gin shining. With this thought in his mind, Lot lifted the fishing rod, then with a vigorous flick, he threw the fishing rod into the long river of time. The angler will never launch the Air Force. Lot felt that his fishing rod had penetrated deeply into the long river of time, and another thing was caught. Quickly lifted up, and what appeared in his hand was a pistol. I'm going. This is a good product. Seeing the pistol, Lot suddenly became energetic. Good guy, this thing is a magic weapon for fighting people on the battlefield in the future. He confronted the sword, and then took advantage of the situation, raised the muzzle, and shot him. In this era, unlike those swordsmen who were inspired by firearms, although they did not expect the other party to fire a firearm, they also have a certain knowledge of firearms. In this era, there is no knowledge about guns at all. It's more convenient to figure it out by yourself. Wait, there seems to be something wrong. This gun seems to be more than an ordinary pistol. The 29 bullets next to this gun, how do you see it so familiar? No way. If this is true, it is a magic weapon for magicians. If you go to the Yin magician. Lot thought of this, put this away quickly, and after putting it away, he also felt the repulsive force of time. Lot knew he should go, but before leaving, he also received a piece of news from the long river of time. Here changes the threshold of access. Before it was Lot, as long as the charge is completed, it can be used. But now, it is for Lot himself to be in a state of peace. If you are in the midst of war, then there is no way to enter at will. If this were the case, Lot's desire to not want Morgan to go around making trouble in Lot's heart became even more urgent. Wife, don't mess around with it. At that time, when I catch some more things, our lives will be much better than your sister, King Arthur. With this in mind, Lot walked out. And just after he walked out, looking into the distance, he happened to see a young man and a young man looking around on the lawn under the castle. The young man among them, with blonde hair, looked heroic. I'm going. Why did she come? Lot was a little surprised when he saw the boy. Are you here to attend your sister's wedding? Chapter 14 The Unconceived Road 4K. Regardless of how many sons and daughters the King Yaozef had in history, in the current world, Lot is sure that King Yaozef has only 2 daughters. One is his wife Morgan, and the other one is the legendary King Arthur. Altria Pendragon. Of course, now she didn't know that she was the daughter of King Arthur and her sister-in-law. She should only come to see the world with her adoptive father and brother. Well, her adoptive father's status is not high. It is estimated that there may still be the meaning of the old net to deceive Merlin. I remember that in the original history, Merlin didn't make any mess when Morgan and I were married. Now it seems that this thing has become bad. Lot thought so in his heart. What is Merlin? A well-known old liar in Britain. Let's not say how strong he is, but his clairvoyance makes Lot difficult to deal with. The ability to predict is arguably the most annoying. Moreover, what is even more uncomfortable is that even if I know that Merlin has this ability, I can't deal with him. Mainly cannot be beaten. Even if he quietly gave him a bullet, it was unlikely that he would have beaten Merlin. How strong is Merlin's strength? It can also be said to be the top few among the entire British Islands. If Morgan became the Lord of the British Isles, it would be fine. But now it is not his opponent. And Merlin is Altria's teacher, so the king who chooses the next generation will definitely support Altria. It's hard to handle. It's really hard to handle. Lot thought in his heart. So, the best way is not to compete with Altria for the throne, but to wait until the future. I have a lot of time now. As long as I have enough time, then I can definitely accumulate enough good things come. At that time, let alone Britain, even the European continent is okay. This time, the plug-in fishing guy Never Air Force has already let himself catch a gun aimed at magicians. And if the time is longer, then more things will be gained. In the future, I might decide what treasures to catch, or it might be possible to catch some Gundam by oneself or the future technology. When the time comes, I can directly upgrade European wind and cloud to various stars. Lot carefully looked at Kai and Altria below, thinking in his heart how to take Morgan to relax temporarily, and then waited for the opportunity. After a nap, I finally recovered my spirit. Morgan woke up shortly after resting. I slept fairly well, and the fatigue from last night has almost disappeared. I don't know, what exactly is Lot doing? Morgan sat up and stretched. The thin quilt slipped from his body, revealing a beautiful body full of grace and seduction. Very beautiful, only Morgan and Lot knew it. Since I'm awake, then go and see what that dog is doing. Don't mess with other girls everywhere. Morgan lightly wrinkled the small and tall kind nose, lightly clenched his fist and said to himself. After changing her black and blue long dress, which seemed to be not serious, she also wore a small crown on the top of her head. This means that she has become the hostess of Orkney. It represents a proof that she can legally exercise her ruling power. Of course, and on the other hand, if Morgan becomes Camelot's king in the future, Lot will have the same rule as her. The West is different from the East. Every inch of land in the East needs to be sent down bit by bit. In the West, you can gain the rule of a kingdom by virtue of marriage. Where does this make sense? Morgan got dressed, and after asking about Lot's place with the maid, Morgan stepped forward to the study to find Lot. Well, just right. I also see how much Orkney's government affairs are. When it happens, I will deal with it personally and I won't be completely blinded. She was thinking in her mind as Morgan walked. After walking a few steps, she came to Lot's study. Pushing open the door, she happened to see Lot looking downstairs with her gaze. Okay, what's the situation? Does the look in the eyes of Luscusi really look good at anyone? Although Morgan was complaining about whether Lot was going to tease the girl just now, she had an inexplicable confidence in Lot in her heart. Although this dog is sex, it's only showing to me. He would never hook up other women. Morgan was even more worried about whether some people were going to seduce Lot. My husband is sometimes too handsome, which is also a problem. But now his expression seems to be looking at what? What is that? Morgan walked to Lot's side. Lot, what are you looking at? The boots she wore on her feet had high heels. After they were worn, they matched her tall figure. They were actually almost the same height as Lot. The two people stood side by side. Their sights were exactly the same. Following Lot's sight, Morgan happened to see Altria and her righteous brother Kai who were looking around below. Morgan looked at the two men. Well, the guy in front of him is a little handsome, but it's much worse than the dog in my house standing next to me. Can be shipped. The latter, if viewed from a man's point of view, hasn't been opened yet. It can only be said to be a bit delicate. But why do I feel an inexplicable sense of familiarity when I look at him? Very familiar. There is still a kind of intimacy in my heart. But I also felt that this young man disgusted me. How does it feel? Disgusting and kind? How does it feel? Forget it. I can't figure it out. Then I came and went off the court for help. So she turned her head and asked Lot. Huh? Lot? Do you think of them that way? Is there anything special about them? Also, I just looked at the teenager behind that, and I had a special feeling. Morgan said this feeling to Lot again. Hearing Morgan say this, he couldn't help but complain in his heart. Of course you will feel special, because that is your sister. If I didn't show up, you would kill her for decades in the future. Oh, there will be another Mordred appearing. But now I am here, then there will be no more Mordred. In other words, there will be another child named Mordred between Morgan and I. The last sentence, with a strong emotion, reached Morgan's ears. I heard Lot's heartfelt voice. Morgan was taken aback. See Goozy, what do you think? I and you are going to ask what the identities of those two people are. As a result, in your own heart, you actually want to have a child named Mordred. Let me think about it. What were the names of the children that you had in your mind when we got married yesterday? Gul, Cheholis, Gareth, and Aghavan. These are already 4. Today I will add another Mordred. Good guy. These are 5. On the second day of our marriage, you have already thought up the names of 5 children. If this is a few more years, Morgan couldn't help but shiver. Compared with the identities of the following 2 people, the strong desire of my husband is more important. What's the situation? Why is there a scared expression on Morgan's face? Lot wondered. I didn't get it. He still went to talk about the identities of the 2 people below. After thinking for a while, he opened his mouth and said to Morgan, Morgan, I just looked at these 2 people's skill a little better, so I took a few more glances. Altria's skill is beyond doubt. Although she was not King Arthur who later drew the sword in the stone and became the King of Camelot, she was absolutely extraordinary after being taught by Sir Ector. As for her righteous brother Kai, who was next to him, he also occupies a very important position among the Knights of the Round Table. Its strength value is among the top ranks among the Knights of the Round Table. Therefore, what Lot called out to say that these 2 men are very skilled is definitely not a false statement. Hearing Lot's words, Morgan nodded slightly. Well, see Goozy thinks that these 2 men are very good. So, Morgan thought about it, and then said to Lot, in this case, how about we recruit these 2 people to our subordinates? Aren't we going to fight with Votagung? These 2 people have good skills, just right. Is here to work for us. After hearing Morgan say this, Lot opened his mouth somewhat surprised. Recruiting the 2 of them to subordinates, this is really an unimagined path. Morgan heard Lot's heartbeat again. Well, what is he doing so surprised? Morgan was a little strange, but she knew Lot must have her own reasons for thinking this way. Regardless, let's recruit first. Go, come with me. Morgan spoke to Lot. At the same time, he stretched out his hand, grabbed Lot's hand, and walked down. Brother Righteousness, your Majesty, King Lot is really good looking here, and I don't know what the Camelot court of our King Arthur would look like. Altria looked around and said to Kay in a longing tone. She never thought that she would actually come to the wedding of Princess Morgan, the daughter of King Arthur. Before, I was in the countryside and my righteous brother trained his swordsmanship under the guidance of his adoptive father, hoping to serve His Majesty King Yaosa one day. The farthest place I went before was the town. As a result, this time it turned out that his adoptive father, Sir Ector, was invited to Morgan's wedding. He and his righteous brother didn't expect it at all. But after Sir Ector's words that he wanted to go out and see the world, the 3 of them set out together to Orkney's side. Along the way, Kai and Altria saw the surrounding scenery and couldn't help feeling the wealth of Orkney. Compared to the town they are in, I don't know how many times it is better. Although Sir Ector was a noble, he was just a small noble at the bottom. There are really not many possessions in the family. Even if he is kind, he can't help the surroundings too much, so Kai and Altria still have a good understanding of the hardships of the farmers. But when they were here, they suddenly felt something completely different from the surroundings. Everyone lives very happy. Also, last night, after the wedding of King Lot and Princess Morgan, the food served also made Altria feel novel. I have never eaten these foods before. Even said that I have never seen it before. Ask yourself the well-informed adoptive father. He is also not clear, but it's delicious. Altria was full last night. King Lot must be a king with extremely good qualities. Brother, if we become nobles in the future, we must also learn some skills from King Lot. Altria spoke to Kai. Well, it really is. Kai nodded in agreement. Although the 2 have not grown up yet, both are full of confidence in their future. And just as the 2 people thought about it, they saw Morgan and Lot come out. Of course, Morgan wasn't holding Lot when meeting with outsiders. Lot walked in front, she walked side by side. At the same time, her face was also covered with a black veil covering half of her face. It looks noble and elegant. Watching them 2 come over, Altria and Kay were a little flustered. They had seen Lot and Morgan from a distance last night and knew their identities. Seeing them 2 rushing towards him now, I suddenly felt whether there was something wrong with them. With such a disparity in identities, one would definitely think about whether he had offended them. What did we do wrong? Kay asked Altria in a low voice. I don't know. Could it be that I ate too much last night? Altria replied in the same low voice. This. At the moment when he said this, Kay actually felt that what his brother said made sense. But after that, he felt that it shouldn't be possible. Although the younger brother did eat a little bit more. However, it would not be enough for King Lot to come and find the door himself. At this time, Morgan and Lot had already walked by the 2 of Altria. Looking at Lot, the handsome face made Kay feel ashamed of himself. Handsome, but also full of charm. At the side, Altria looked at Morgan. Morgan's nobleness and mystery also surprised Altria. Morgan looked at Altria carefully. Hey, what's the situation? How can this boy look a bit like me? What the hell? Chapter 15. Come. Be my knight. First more. But it should be just a coincidence. Last time Nilot said that his sister would become Camelot's king, not his younger brother would become Camelot's king. He may just have a little relationship with our family. Morgan looked at Lot, as if expecting him to say something to him. Now I can only look at Lot's own wink. If Lot didn't want to, he wouldn't have any good solutions. So, are these two people actually arranged by Lot before? Morgan thought in his heart. Immediately, she gave up the idea. Lot didn't seem to be someone who could do this. It's not that Lot doesn't have this ability, Morgan just thinks Lot doesn't have this heart. If he had really been so idle, it would have been more than Orkney's territory. I have to admit that she looks at her talents and seems to be higher than his father, King Yashu. Also, a little bit worse than us. And while thinking like this in Morgan's heart, Altria spoke to Morgan in a nervous tone. Your Majesty King Lot, Your Royal Highness Morgan, what are you looking for me and my righteous brother Kay? But don't talk about eating. Those ingredients look really expensive. If you pay it back, my family can't afford it. My adoptive father, Sir Ector, is a very poor low-class nobleman, and he really doesn't have much money. If by any chance I am asked to make up for it, I guess I can only stay here as a servant. If I had to eat and ask for money at that time, I might have to stay here as a servant for the rest of my life. I still want to be a knight. Nothing, we just wandered around. By the way, what is your family? Morgan took Lot's hand, and then asked Altria in a gentle tone. Although in my heart I still feel that the person in front of me has a feeling of being a great enemy. But Morgan actually had a feeling that he wanted to recruit him even more. Hearing what she said, Altria looked at the luxurious Morgan. My heart is full of longing. My adoptive father is Sir Ector, Altria said very honestly. What about your biological father? Morgan asked Altria. I'm not sure about this. Altria shook her head. Morgan did not continue to inquire about this topic. She continued to look at Kai and Altria, and then said to the two of them, so, are you interested in coming and playing with me? As long as you two come over, Lot will personally canonize you two as knights. Canonized directly as a knight? Hearing Morgan's words, Kay, Altria, and Lot were all surprised. This situation seems to have exceeded our expectations. Morgan recruited Altria. I don't know how to complain. Morgan heard Lot's words. Can't help but look at him. What is your situation? So speechless? It is really strange that emotions can be speechless to this degree. Also, you only speak of Altria. Is there anything special about him? Well, anyway, then I must recruit him to his subordinates. And on the other side. But after being surprised like this, Kay and Altria instantly felt a joyful mood. Kai knew that he would definitely become a knight, but he also needed an opportunity. As for Altria's side, she was just a knight rebel now. As a knight rebel, it is not certain whether he can become a knight in the future. Now let's just say that you can directly become a knight and then directly take up the post, which of course will make two people happy. Okay. Kay and Altria were excited at the same time. Well, can we discuss it with my father? If my father doesn't object, we must have agreed to the solicitation of His Royal Highness Morgan, and will serve His Royal Highness Morgan in this life. Kay groaned, and then replied to Morgan. This speech was neither humble nor overbearing, and very calm, which made both Lot and Morgan's eyes bright. Not only does this guy seem to be very good at swordsmanship, but he is also very calm when doing things. Lot also nodded secretly. Kay deserves to be one of the Knights of the Round Table who can become a court minister in the future, and he appears to be very sophisticated in handling affairs. In the future, if I need it, it would be more reliable to let him take care of some things. Hey, how did I think of recruiting them to the subordinates? Lot felt that he might be taken into the ditch by Morgan. Well, yes, I look forward to you guys. Morgan nodded slightly. Kay and Altria bid farewell to Lot and Morgan, and then went to Sir Ector to inquire. When they were gone, Morgan turned his head and looked at Lot. How? You said that if these two people become our subordinates, after we become the King of Camelot in the future, they will definitely give us a lot of help, right? Laughter. Hurry up and compliment me. Well, indeed, if they really become your subordinates, it really helps a lot. Lot nodded vigorously. Morgan felt that Lot's words were a little weird, but he was sincere. Well, it looks like what I did is really good. Morgan was very happy. Morgan tilted his head and said to Lot at this time, Lot, let's go. I want to take a look at the documents on Orkney's government affairs. Okay, wait for the two of us to deal with it together. Lot nodded slightly. And in my heart, hey, I can finally hand over things. At that time, I can go fishing every day. Morgan heard this. I was a little speechless. This guy, trusting me is a good thing. But, you are too lazy. Lot, work hard for me. Morgan thought in his heart, staring at his beautiful eyes. Kay and Altria didn't have any delay. After bidding farewell to Lot, they went to find their father. But they hadn't found Sir Ector yet. They met someone first. Old liar Merlin. Yeah, what are you two doing in such a hurry? Merlin looked at the two men and asked. He had been watching Altria before, but after Lot appeared, he lost his sight of Altria during this time. Now come out again. Of course he wants to ask. Teacher, this is the case. His Royal Highness Morgan wants me to be her knight. Altria said to Merlin happily. Even Merlin, who didn't have any emotions in his heart, felt the corners of his mouth twitch at this moment.